Dominate person. There's definitely not going to be a running theme with that announcement in the background later in the video.
Want to be dominated? We'll dominate you. We'll ask you to be...
5th level enchantment, casting time of 1 action, range of 60 feet, components verbal somatic, duration concentration up to 1 minute. You attempt to beguile a humanoid that you can see within range. It must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you for the duration. If you or creatures that are friendly to you are fighting, it has advantage on the saving throw. While the target is charmed, you have a telepathic link to it with as long as the two of you are on the same plane of existence. You can use this telepathic link to issue commands to the creature while you are conscious, no action required, which it does its best to obey. You can specify a simple and general course of action, such as attack that creature, run over there, or fetch that object. If the creature completes the order and doesn't receive further directions from you, it defends and preserves itself to the best of its ability. You can use your action to take total and precise control of the target until the end of your next turn. The creature takes only the actions you choose and doesn't do anything that you don't allow it to do. During this time, you can also cause the creature to use a reaction, but this requires you to use your own reaction as well. Each time the target takes damage, it makes a new wisdom saving throw against the spell. If the spell saving throw succeeds, the spell ends. At higher levels, when you cast the spell using a 6th level spell slot, the duration is concentration up to 10 minutes. When you use a 7th level spell slot, the duration is concentration up to 1 hour. When you use a spell slot of 8th level or higher, the duration is concentration up to 8 hours. See, this is the villain one. Specifically, this is targeting humanoids, which, to the amount of time that might become up useful for the players, depends the campaign. Sometimes there's games where you almost entirely fight monsters. However, for DMs, this is the villain spell because, hey, guess what almost everyone in the party likely is? Humanoid. The precise control thing is great, but the trade-off of using your own action and reaction, theoretically, you could continuously be blasting spells. Alright, put it this way. If you're a player or a villain or NPC or whatever, when you're using this spell, you're targeting the most dangerous thing in the room for 2 reasons. One is to turn them against their allies, not necessarily their legions because you're just controlling them, but what I mean is particularly using that firepower that's been against you, now against the enemy you're fighting. And 2, still making yourself useful. Let's put it this way, to actually get direct control of them takes your action and reaction, or can possibly take your reaction as well. So then you only got your bonus action to do things on your turn if you're doing precise control, which I'd recommend doing precise control. Nothing against the general command, but I mean, if you tell a player, hey, like as a villain, a lich or something, or some spellcaster using this, like, hey, party barbarian or rogue, go hit the squishy mage. And then all of a sudden they just punch it instead. You're gonna go for the least damaging option. Yes, is that exactly in the wording or what the spell should be doing? That's a bit of meta bleeding in. Similar thing for if you're an enemy doing that, you don't want to immediately decimate allies of the enemy that you set up the encounter with. And even just in setting, it's just much better to take precise control, because then you can also burn and use specific items and resources. So to the point that even if it's not entirely used in an effective manner, like let's say against an enemy, you can still burn high-level spell slots on the same spellcaster. Or, while yes, they can take damage and can't do immediately harmful stuff to themselves. One more thing to bring up when it comes to specific enchantment spells, which this also covers the others. This doesn't have a requirement on not going into harmful terrain, or obviously harmful terrain. You can even have, with direct control, the target hurt themselves. They're going to try and preserve themselves if you don't give them a command or a specific one. But hey, wizard over there! Meteor swarm on yourself! Pretty please. Hey, this is your video call out. Definitely not related to the Dominate Person intro, but like, subscribe, share, all that YouTube pleasantry. Back to the video. This one as well, I see a bit more worth it than both Monster. Monster can still be very useful because that's the wide variety of things you can affect. 8th level, however, that kind of hurts. And then when it comes to Beast, not worth 4th level. But when it comes to Dominate Person, you're either running into NPCs, humanoid targets, or as again the villain, doing that whole situation. There is also the social manipulation aspect of this. This one is actually really worth upcasting. Because while yeah, they take damage, they might be able to make the save after it, only really use the 5th level or low level versions of this for the combat scenarios, in the villain's case as well. But for players and villain or DM or anyone involved in this, it's worth the upcast for spying. Or at least affect a captain of a town guard, affect one of the guards at a noble's point, or a young noble kid who can get into court, a local scribe, one of the fancy priests, a member of a cult. Have them take direct control of them, have them speak for you, and they can get into places that you necessarily can't, or grant you access to places you necessarily can't. Puppeteer them in social situations. That is where you get the maximum usage out of the time. And depending on what humanoid you're targeting, it changes the effects of the social situation they might be able to manipulate, and also just the various bits of lethality depending on who you're targeting. 8 out of 10. The spell slot it's at, and the variety of things that you can do with a humanoid target versus just a monster or health block stack to throw at something. 8 out of 10. Mention in the comments below if you're going to be trying these situations, or situations where Dominate Person has entirely shifted the tide of a battle.